Although a lot of you will have no idea what I'm talking about when I say that I used to rewind my tapes with a pencil so that I can save on my batteries. That's just one of the really cool things that you got to discover before the internet was born and it was all iPhones and tablets and instant gratification. Not everything was at your fingertips. Information, for example, came from gossip, newspapers, magazines, and television. And back then, there wasn't that many channels.
There was 57 channels and nothing on.
I wish there was 57 channels, but back then there were 4 channels, 2 in English, 2 in French. The point is, one of my favorite things to do was go to the local video store. This one was called Chateau Video. And the cool thing about it is you'd walk in, you'd look at all the cassette boxes and you'd check out the covers, read the synopsis on the back of the VHS or Betamax, and you would just pick one. There wasn't any IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes. The only thing you would know about the movie you were about to choose was that it might have been in theaters the year before or many years prior, or one of your friends might have seen it and recommended it. But that was about it. So going to the video store was like a crapshoot. You rolled the dice, and most of the time, you had no idea what you were walking out with. Sometimes you'd win and discover a gem you didn't even know existed, but most of the time, you just rented yourself a couple of hours of sometimes excruciating boredom. But this wasn't one of those times. While browsing the horror section one day, I came across a little movie called Dawn of the Dead. Snagged it from the shelf, paid the rental fee, and off I went. And my love for zombie flicks was suddenly born. Zombie movies have been around for a long time, but the term zombie has been around even longer than any movie. The English word zombie is first recorded in 1819 in a history of Brazil by poet Robert Southey in the form of zombie, actually referring to the Afro-Brazilian rebel leader named Zumbi and the etymology of his name, Zambi. The Oxford English Dictionary gives the origin of the word as West African and compares it to the Congo words Zambi, meaning God, and Zombi, meaning fetish. In Haitian folklore, a zombie is an animated corpse raised by magical means such as witchcraft. The concept has been popularly associated with the religion of voodoo, but it plays no part in the faith's formal practices. One of the first books to expose Western culture to the concept of the voodoo zombie was The Magic Island by W.B. Seabrook in 1929. This is the sensationalized account of a narrator who encounters voodoo cults in Haiti and their resurrected thralls. Time magazine claimed that the book introduced the word zombie into US speech. Zombies have a complex literary heritage with antecedents ranging from Richard Matheson and H.P. Lovecraft to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, drawing on European folklore of the undead. In 1932, Victor Halperin directed White Zombie, a horror film starring Bela Lugosi. Here, zombies are depicted as mindless, unthinking henchmen under the spell of an evil magician. Zombies, often still using this voodoo-inspired rationale, were highly uncommon in cinema, but their appearances continued sporadically throughout the 1930s to the 1960s, with notable films including I Walked with a Zombie, released in 1943, and 1959's Plan 9 from Outer Space. How the creatures in contemporary zombie films came to be called zombies is not fully clear. The film Night of the Living Dead made no spoken reference to its undead antagonists as zombies, describing them instead as ghouls, though ghouls, which derive from Arabic folklore, are demons, not undead. Although George Romero used the term ghoul in his original scripts, in later interviews he did use the term zombie.
I finally gave up and decided to call them zombies.
The word zombie is used exclusively by Romero in his 1978 script for his sequel, Dawn of the Dead, including once in dialogue.
All police units have been issued heavy caliber sidearms. In fact, it will be essential to hit the zombie in the head in order to bring him down definitively.
According to George Romero, film critics were influential in associating the term zombie to his creatures, and especially the French magazine Cahiers du Cinéma. He eventually accepted this linkage, even though he remained convinced at the time that zombies corresponded to the undead slaves of Haitian voodoo as depicted in Bela Lugosi's White Zombie. A new version of the zombie, distinct from that described in Haitian folklore, has also emerged in popular culture during the latter half of the 20th century. This zombie is taken largely from Romero's seminal film Night of the Living Dead, which was in turn partly inspired by Richard Matheson's 1954 novel I Am Legend.
Richard actually jokes with me about saying that I stole his idea, And I keep saying, no, my guys aren't vampires. They certainly aren't vampires.
The word zombie is not used in Night of the Living Dead, but was later applied by fans. The monsters in the film and its sequels, such as Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead, as well as its inspired works, such as Return of the Living Dead and Zombie 2, are usually hungry for human flesh, although Return of the Living Dead introduced the popular concept of zombies eating brains. The zombie apocalypse concept, in which the civilized world is brought down by a global zombie infestation, became a staple of modern popular art. And the biggest part of modern zombie popularization into the lifeblood of pop culture is directly attributed to George A. Romero. After the success of 1968's Night of the Living Dead, Romero returned to the zombie genre in 1978 and wrote, directed, and edited Dawn of the Dead. The history of Dawn of the Dead began in 1974 when Romero was invited by friend Mark Mason of Oxford Development Company, whom Romero knew from an acquaintance at his alma mater, Carnegie Mellon, to visit the Monroeville Mall, which Mason's company managed. After showing Romero hidden parts of the mall, during which Romero noted the bliss of the consumers, Mason jokingly suggested that someone would be able to survive in the mall should an emergency ever occur. With this inspiration, Romero began to write the screenplay for the film. Romero and his producer, Richard P. Rubinstein, were unable to procure any domestic investors for the new project. By chance, word of the sequel reached Italian horror director Dario Argento. A fan of Night of the Living Dead and an early critical proponent of the film, Argento was eager to help the horror classic receive a sequel. He met Romero and Rubinstein, helping to secure financing in exchange for international distribution rights. Argento invited Romero to Rome so he would have a change of scenery while writing the screenplay. The two could also discuss plot developments. Romero was able to secure the availability of the Monroeville Mall as well as additional financing through his connections with the mall's owners at Oxford Development. Once the casting was completed, principal shooting was scheduled to begin in Pennsylvania on November 13, 1977. Dawn of the Dead was released on April 20th, 1978. Its $1.5 million budget generated $55 million at the box office. The film is hands down my favorite zombie movie of all time. Definitely one of the most compelling and entertaining zombie flicks ever made. Thanks again for tuning in, liking, sharing, and subscribing. Hats off to our wonderful patrons. Your support is greatly appreciated. What's your favorite zombie flick? How many times did I say zombie in this episode? Let me know in the comments section down below. This episode was brought to you by Walla Woofa Pabadango. Thank you, we love you, good night.